This is the second video in my series on classical games from the 19th and early 20th century. This was the first game of the semi-final match between Adolf Anderssen and Howard Staunton at the 1851 London tournament. Anderssen was white and Staunton was black. Play started with a Sicilian defence. e4, c5, d4, c takes d4. Now white most often chooses c3 here with the Mora gambit. However, in the game, white went for knight f3. This is an unusual move order if white is aiming for the open Sicilian. It is also somewhat inaccurate, as it allows black a favourable transposition that white could have avoided if he played knight f3 first. Black could now play a6, transposing to a line of the O'Kelly Sicilian, which is fine for black. However, O'Kelly didn't start playing his line of the Sicilian until about a century after this game was played, so it is not surprising that black did not go down this route. The point is that after knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, e5, white cannot play knight on d to b5 and has to move his knight to an inferior square. White would not be forced to go down this route if he played knight f3 before d4. This is because if black responds to knight f3 with a6, white is then able to play something other than d4. Instead, black decided on e6, leading to his preferred setup. White continued with a natural knight takes d4. Black then chose the unusual bishop c5. White responded by developing naturally with knight c3. Now black should have tried the active queen b6, which leads to complications. Instead he chose the passive a6. White now developed actively with bishop e3, bishop a7, bishop d3, knight e7, castles, castles, queen h5. White is now planning e5 to hit the h7 pawn. Now black should have played the solid d6, gaining some control over the centre. Instead he chose knight g6, wasting time to place the knight on an inferior square where it is vulnerable to attack. White now builds up methodically over the next few moves. However, while none of his moves are terrible, he does miss the chance to play knight f3, intending knight g5 on several occasions, and while black fails to take the opportunity to eliminate the knight with bishop takes d4. For instance, knight f3 was very strong here, but white chose e5 instead. And now black could have played bishop takes d4, although admittedly his position was still grim after bishop takes d4. But instead he chose queen c7. Now knight f3 was again very strong, but instead white chose rook a to e1, defending the e-pawn indirectly. Knight takes e5 would lose to queen takes h7 mate, and queen takes e5 would drop a piece to bishop takes g6. Now black should have played bishop takes d4, but instead he chose b5. And yet again knight f3 was very strong, but instead white chose f4 and play continued bishop b7, knight e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, knight c6. Here c3 would have maintained white's grip on the position. Instead, white allowed some unnecessary exchanges with knight takes c6, d takes c6. Now, king h1 was best, avoiding an awkward pin on the a7 g1 diagonal. Instead, white chose the aggressive but flawed g4. Black could now have played bishop takes e3 check, rook takes e3, queen a7, holding up white's attack when he does indeed seem to have decent counterplay. Instead he chose rook on a to d8. And after king h1, black could again have played bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, queen a7, when rook h3 can be met with h6 when black is still very much in the game. Instead, black played the active c5, but keeping the dark squared bishops on the board definitely helped white's attack. Now, f5 looks the most incisive solution. However, rook f3, which white chose, is also a good way to build the attack. Black now set off on a dubious pawn-grabbing exercise on the queen side, but it was difficult to see a good alternative. Queen a5, rook ef1, queen a4, bishop d3, queen takes a2, rook h3. This forces a weakening in black's king position, which white can latch onto. h6, g5, rook takes d3. Black plays a desperate exchange sacrifice to reduce white's attacking potential, but it really does not slow him up. c takes d3, queen d5 check, rook on f to f3, knight e7, g takes h6, g6. Black tries to block the attack, but white can still break through. h7 check, king h8, queen g5, knight f5, queen f6 check, knight g7. Now white played the very strong f5, intending bishop h6 followed by queen takes g7 mate. Black had no defence. After queen d8, white has the forcing sequence, queen takes g7 check, king takes g7, f6 check, king h8, and now bishop h6 wins. Black threatens bishop g7 mate, and king takes h7, bishop g7 check, king g8, rook h8 check is still mate. In the game, black chose queen b3, looking to force perpetual check, but to no avail. Bishop h6, queen d1 check, king g2, queen e2 check, rook f2, queen g4 check, rook g3, and black had run out of checks, while queen takes g7 mate is unstoppable. Black, therefore, resigned.